The message arrived not with fanfare but with cold, clinical precision. A single transmission beamed across the void from the heart of the Velnari hegemony. It bore the seal of the Supreme Conclave, a spiraling glyph of obsidian and gold that pulsed with the weight of 1,000 subjugated worlds. The demand was simple, absolute, and delivered without room for negotiation. Surrender unconditionally. Dismantle all orbital defenses. Submit to hegemonic governance. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization. Earth's leaders, gathered in the global defense nexus beneath Geneva, faces pale under the sterile glow of holographic star maps. Panic flickered in the eyes of diplomats. Resignation settled on the shoulders of generals. The Velnari were legends, conquerors who had swallowed civilizations whole, their fleets vast as nebulae, their war engines capable of cracking planetary crusts like eggshells. Humanity had only just cracked the light barrier a century ago. Resistance seemed not just futile, it was suicide. But then, someone remembered the Aegis Project, buried in classified archives, forgotten by most. The Aegis Project wasn't about diplomacy or stealth. It was born of a different philosophy, one whispered in shipyards coded into AI cores and welded into titanium alloy hulls by engineers who'd grown up on stories of Thermopylae and Midway. It was humanity's answer to the universe's indifference. If they come for us, we don't ask for mercy. We bring the storm. 3 days after the hegemony's ultimatum expired, the Velnari Armada arrived. 700 warships, each the size of a mountain range, emerged from folded space at the edge of the Sol system. Their hulls shimmered with adaptive armor, their weapon arrays humming with the promise of annihilation. At their center floated the Imperator's Will, flagship of Grand Marshal Vorik, a being whose species had not known defeat in 10,000 cycles. Vorik expected silence. He expected trembling comms begging for terms. Instead, his tactical officer stiffened. "Sir, Earth's orbital platforms and they're powering up." Vorik scoffed. "Primitive kinetic batteries, let them fire. We shall harvest their debris for scrap." Then the skies of Earth changed, not with surrender, but with fire. From hidden docks beneath the moon's far side, from asteroid belts long thought barren, from the dark folds behind Jupiter's shadow, humanity's true fleet emerged. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The Odyssey-class dreadnoughts, each bristling with railgun batteries and plasma lances. The Valkyrie-class interceptors, faster than thought, weaving through space like hornets. And at the vanguard, the UNS. Resolute flagship of Admiral Elias Kane, a man who'd once said, "We don't fight to win. We fight so the enemy regrets ever picking the fight." Vorik stared at the tactical display as red icons multiplied beyond comprehension. "Impossible," he hissed. "Their energy signatures, their burning antimatter cores, their FTL drives, they're modified. How?" What the Velnari didn't know was that humanity had spent the last century not just exploring space, but preparing for war. While the hegemony expanded through conquest, Earth had turned inward, not out of fear, but focus. Every nation, every corporation, every citizen had contributed. Through taxes, through innovation, through sacrifice. Children grew up learning astrogation alongside algebra. Factories that once built cars now forged fusion reactors. And in secret orbital shipyards, guided by AI trained on every battle in human history, from Cannae to Kursk, humanity built not just ships, but a doctrine. They called it total response. The first volley struck before the Velnari could raise shields. Railgun slugs, accelerated to 0.3 C, punched through the leading frigates like paper. Plasma torpedoes, guided by predictive neural nets, detonated inside, shield harmonics overloading emitters and cascading failures. The Valkyries swarmed, not with brute force but with surgical precision, targeting command relays, sensor arrays, and life support nodes. Vorik roared orders, his fleet pivoting into defensive formation. But human tactics defied logic. Ships feigned retreat only to lure pursuers into minefields of smart drones. Others sacrificed themselves as decoys, broadcasting false fleet signatures while the real strike groups flanked from blind spots. Humanity didn't fight like a unified empire. They fought like packs of wolves, unpredictable, relentless, and utterly without mercy. Aboard the Resolute, Admiral Kane watched the carnage unfold. His face was calm, but his knuckles were white on the armrest. "They thought we'd beg," he murmured to his XO. "They forgot what happens when you corner a species that built pyramids, sailed oceans, and walked on the moon with slide rules and duct tape. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold on public feeds. No censorship, no sugarcoating. Just raw, terrifying footage of ships exploding, of heroes dying, of the thin blue line holding against an ocean of darkness. And instead of despair, something else rose, something the Velnari couldn't comprehend. Pride in Mumbai, factory workers doubled shifts to produce missile guidance chips. In Nairobi, teenagers hacked into abandoned satellites to relay comms. In Buenos Aires, musicians played defiant anthems in the streets as the sky burned with distant fire. Humanity wasn't just defending a planet. They were defending an idea that no matter how vast the universe, no matter how ancient the enemy, human spirit was not to be trifled with. By the 12th hour, the tide had turned. The Velnari fleet was shattered. Half their ships lay in ruin. The Imperator's will was crippled, its bridge breached, its Grand Marshal bleeding in 0G. Vorak activated the emergency beacon, a signal of surrender, something his species had never sent before. But humanity didn't answer with mercy. The Resolute moved in, flanked by a dozen dreadnoughts. Holographic comms flickered to life on the Velnari bridge. Admiral Kane appeared, not in uniform, but in a simple black jacket, his face scarred, his eyes hard as neutron stars. "You came to our home," he said, voice calm but carrying the weight of extinction avoided. "You demanded we kneel." He paused, letting the silence stretch across the void. "We don't kneel." The transmission cut. Then, from every human ship, a final salvo launched, not at the Imperator's will, but at the hegemony's primary relay station orbiting Mars. The explosion lit the inner system like a second sun. All Velnari comms went dark. The message was clear. This ends now. And if you ever return, we'll be waiting. In the aftermath, Earth did not celebrate. There was no parade, only silence, grief, and the grim work of rebuilding. But across the Sol system, something new stirred. Colonies on Mars and Titan began retrofitting civilian haulers with weapons. Research stations in the Kuiper Belt shared blueprints for next-gen fighters. Humanity had tasted war, and survived. And the galaxy took notice. Rumors spread through the galactic underbelly of a young species that didn't negotiate, didn't flee, and didn't break. Of a world that answered ultimatums with armadas. Of humans, small, fragile, short-lived, who fought like demons and built like gods. The Velnari hegemony would recover, but they would never again underestimate Earth. Because humanity had sent a message written not in words, but in plasma fire and shattered hulls. You wanted our surrender? Here's our battleships instead.